I would be truly grateful if you subscribe to the channel. Your support will help this family grow, so let's move forward together. On my birthday, my grandfather smiled and asked, "Is the apartment comfortable?" I said, "What apartment?" My parents froze. He glared at them. "Then where did the money go?" "All right, Reddit. I'm Ethan Caldwell, 25, male. One question at my birthday cracked a 3-year paper trail. $275,000 diverted, my trust compromised. I use patience, lawyers, and receipts. It's chaos, but the good kind. Get your popcorn. Enjoy. Don't you dare skip, this mess deserves your full attention. It started at the table right after my grandfather asked. The silence stretched long enough for me to notice things I'd ignored all evening. The dining room table was set with heavy ceramic plates I'd never seen, the kind with maker's marks screaming rental company. Mom had arranged flowers in a vase with a half-peeled price sticker on the base. She'd been buzzing around like a Broadway stage manager, adjusting napkins, checking her watch. "Isn't this wonderful, Ethan? All your favorite people in one place." Her smile was tight as shrink wrap. Dad stood behind his chair, gripping it like it might float away. His face was the color of wet concrete. Grandfather waited. Henry Caldwell's always been good at waiting, built a fortune on patience, knowing when to speak and when to let silence force the truth. "What apartment?" I repeated, looking between my parents. Mom's laugh was forced. "Oh, you know how he gets confused sometimes, don't you, Dad?" She shot grandfather a look that could cut glass. His expression didn't flinch. At 78, he had the steady gaze that probably made boardroom sweat. "I sent $275,000 8 months ago," he said. "For Ethan's apartment at Harborview Towers, prepaid rent, furniture allowance, security deposit. I wanted everything ready before his trust fund vested." The words hit like a dropped anvil. My sister Sophie shifted in her chair. She'd been glued to her phone all night. Now she looked up, genuinely confused. "What trust fund?" she asked. I was wondering the same thing. A guy stood near the kitchen doorway, mid-30s, in a suit too sharp for a family birthday party. He'd been nursing the same glass of water for an hour, watching with the quiet attention of someone taking mental notes. Mom laughed again, higher-pitched. "Dad, you're making Ethan nervous with this talk. Let's enjoy the party. Where's the apartment key, Diane?" Grandfather's voice stayed level, but something underneath shifted, like ice cracking on a lake. Dad finally spoke. "We were going to tell him. We just thought." "Thought what?" Grandfather cut in. "That he didn't need to know about his own money?" The kitchen was a mishmash of food, grocery store cake next to catered appetizers. The birthday decorations screamed afterthought, dollar store balloons tied to chairs that didn't match the house. I'd been living in the same studio apartment for 2 years, clanging radiator, sticky bathroom door, Mrs. Klein's cat scratching the walls at 3 a.m. If someone offered me a place downtown, I'd have packed that day. "Ethan," grandfather said, turning to me. "Grab your jacket." Mom stepped forward. "Dad, please. Can't we talk like adults?" "We could have talked 8 months ago," he said. "Or 6 months ago, or last week, or any time before now." The stranger by the kitchen raised his eyebrows, like he was watching a chess match and someone made a bold move. Dad's hands shook. "We can explain everything. We just need time to." "Time's up," grandfather said quietly. I looked at the rented plates, the borrowed chairs, Sophie staring at her phone like it held answers. My parents suddenly looked like strangers wearing familiar faces. My jacket hung on a chair by the door. I grabbed it and followed grandfather out. "Ethan, wait," Mom's voice cracked. "This is your birthday party." I stopped, looked at the performance she'd staged, like I was an actor in a play I never auditioned for. "No," I said. "This is your party." I was just the excuse. The front door closed with a soft click. Outside, grandfather's Camry sat next to a black SUV I didn't recognize, too flashy, like it was borrowed to impress. "Get in," he said, fishing keys from his pocket. "We need to talk." The Camry smelled of coffee and leather polish. He drove like he did everything, steady, deliberate, no wasted motion. He took the highway downtown without asking where I wanted to go. "That man at the party," I said. "By the kitchen." "Lucas Kane," grandfather replied, changing lanes with precision. "Used to hunt financial crimes for the IRS. Now he works for me." We pulled into the underground garage of Harborview Towers. Grandfather handed me a key fob from the glove compartment, programmed with my name. The elevator ride to the 32nd floor was silent. I watched the numbers climb, trying to process. 2 hours ago, I was eating grocery store cake, debating a new microwave. Apartment 3204 opened to a view that stopped me cold. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Mississippi River, the city spread out like a circuit board, sharp lines, glowing connections. I'd installed security systems in buildings like this, never imagining living in one. The furniture was exactly my taste, clean, comfortable, not flashy. Someone had done their homework. A gym membership card sat on the kitchen counter, sealed in its envelope, dated 8 months ago, around the time my parents got new cars. The adhesive strip was still tacky. No dust on the baseboards. The router label matched the apartment number. Window locks turned smoothly, recently oiled. Warranty cards for appliances sat unregistered in kitchen drawers, organized by purchase date. The pantry was stocked like a showroom, labels facing out, brands I recognized but couldn't afford. It looked staged, like someone followed a checklist, not actual grocery shopping. I opened drawers, silverware still packaged. This place had been waiting for me since before I knew it existed. $275,000, grandfather said from the living room. Prepaid rent for 2 years, furniture allowance, security deposits. I wanted you settled somewhere decent before your trust fund vested. Trust fund? Another bombshell. How much? I asked. $760,000. It vested on your 25th birthday. His voice carried the weight of more bad news. Should have, anyway. I did the math. My birthday was 3 weeks ago. The money should have been mine, but it wasn't. Someone's been borrowing against it for years, he said. Your parents had banking connections, found ways to access the principal early. He moved to the windows, hands behind his back. Lucas is tracking the paper trail. He notices things others miss, finds financial traces investigators overlook. I opened the refrigerator, empty except for a welcome basket with cheese, crackers, and sparkling water costing more than my usual grocery budget. How much is left? I asked. Maybe $30,000, if we're lucky. I stood in a kitchen I couldn't afford, holding a gym membership I didn't sign up for, staring at food I didn't buy. The situation felt like stepping into someone else's life. Anger wasn't there yet, just something colder. My parents had stolen my future and smiled at my birthday party. They'd used my money to buy new lives, staging a performance to keep the lie alive. Can we get it back? I asked. Most of it, maybe all, depending on their assets, grandfather said. It'll take time, legal processes, financial recovery, criminal charges if we push that way. How long? Months. I walked to the master bedroom, king-size bed, hotel crisp sheets, dresser drawers gliding like they were on ball bearings. Everything untouched. You want me to stay here tonight? I want you to think about what comes next, grandfather said. Away from them. I looked at the empty closet, hangers spaced perfectly. Okay, I said. He nodded and headed for the door. Lucas will call tomorrow. He'll walk you through the legal options. After he left, I stood in the living room, city lights sprawling below. Somewhere down there, my parents were probably at their rented table, scrambling to explain the unexplainable. I turned the deadbolt. The sound was satisfying, like drawing a line in the sand, quietly. Lucas showed up at 9 a.m. with coffee and a briefcase. He moved through the apartment like he was cataloging evidence, which he was. Your grandfather gave me the basics, he said, setting up his laptop on the dining table. But we need to dig deeper. Grandfather arrived 20 minutes later with pastries from some cash-only bakery. He settled by the windows, letting Lucas run the meeting. Lucas pulled up bank records, columns of numbers, dates, transaction codes that looked like gibberish to most. To him, they told stories. The trust was structured to vest automatically on your 25th birthday, he said. $760,000, managed by Northfield Corporate Trust. He scrolled through financial data. Someone's been impersonating you for 3 years. He showed forged correspondence, letters requesting early distribution signed with my name in handwriting that wasn't mine, calls from numbers tied to addresses I'd never lived at. The banker should have called you directly for verification, Lucas said. Standard protocol for early distributions. Instead, he used callback numbers provided by the impersonator. The negligence is almost impressive. How much is gone? I asked. Hard to say exactly. Multiple distributions over 36 months, $640,000 withdrawn so far. I did the math, maybe $120,000 left, assuming they hadn't taken more. We need to move fast, Lucas continued. File identity theft claims, freeze everything, create a legal paper trail to stop further access. He handed me a list: FTC identity theft affidavit, credit bureau freezes with Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, bank fraud reports, Minneapolis PD complaint. You'll need to file these yourself, he said. I'll guide you, but they need to come from you. I spent 4 hours on calls and government websites. The FTC affidavit was straightforward once I navigated their system. Credit freezes were easier, each agency had online portals for this exact scenario, locking my credit profile like a vault. Bank fraud reports took patience, each institution wanted their own forms, their own version of the story. Minneapolis PD was tedious. The fraud detective sounded like he'd heard 1,000 similar cases. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophie around lunchtime, "Mom's crying. Dad won't leave his room. What's happening?" I stared but didn't respond. Lucas made calls, speaking in shorthand that suggested long professional ties, probably former colleagues. "Your parents made mistakes," he said after his third call. "Used the stolen money for traceable purchases, credit card payments, home improvements, car loans. They left digital breadcrumbs everywhere." Grandfather sat quietly, asking occasional questions that cut to the core. He'd built his fortune understanding money flows and risk. By 4 p.m., we had a foundation: identity theft claims filed, credit frozen, banks notified, police report submitted, everything timestamped. "Now we need legal leverage," Lucas said, closing his laptop. "Civil remedies, asset protection, maybe criminal charges, depending on how aggressive you want to be." He dialed a number from memory. "James, it's Lucas Kane. Need an appointment tomorrow morning. Client matter. Urgent." He listened. "Ethan Caldwell, grandson of Henry Caldwell. Trust fund fraud. Family perpetrators." The call lasted 30 seconds. "James Harper, your grandfather's attorney," Lucas said, making a note. "Specializes in this kind of case." "Criminal charges?" I asked. Lucas's expression didn't change. "That's tomorrow's conversation. The evidence is solid: wire fraud, identity theft, maybe bank fraud. The question is whether you want to prosecute family." I looked at the city below. "Schedule the meeting," I said without hesitation. Lucas spread bank statements across the table like dealing cards. 3 years of financial records, he said, opening a spreadsheet. "Every transaction, every dollar, every timestamp. Let the evidence tell the story." He showed me how to trace money flows. Trust distributions hit my parents' checking account days after each forged request, then moved in predictable patterns: credit card payments, home improvement contractors, luxury purchases Dad's electrician salary couldn't cover. Lucas color-coded entries, cross-referencing merchant codes against timestamps matching Dad's work hours. Device fingerprints from Dad's phone showed consistent browser signatures accessing the trust portal during lunch breaks. The digital pattern was damning. "Look at this," Lucas pointed to transactions from 18 months ago. $37,000 to Bergen's Fine Furniture. Same week, your mom posted Instagram photos of her new dining room set. More patterns emerged: $22,000 for mom's cosmetic spa packages over 6 months, a landscaping retainer for their backyard, a $15,000 donation to a private school Sophie never attended. Lucas pulled up card transaction logs. "Your dad's been sloppy. Trust portal access from his home IP address, always during lunch breaks. 47 logins over 3 years, same device fingerprint. He used email variants for fake accounts: markcaldwell@gmail.com, mcaldwell.enterprises@yahoo.com, markcaldwell.llc@hotmail.com. "Amateur hour," Lucas said. The dummy company was laughably transparent: Caldwell Lifestyle Services LLC, registered in Delaware with Dad as managing member. They'd used it to buy business fixtures that appeared in Mom's social media: kitchen appliances, patio furniture, a hot tub definitely not for business. We built exhibits like a prosecution case: bank PDFs with transactions highlighted, annotated social media screenshots, merchant receipts Lucas tracked through his investigator network. The timeline was airtight: trust distributions followed by spending sprees, forged signatures unlike my handwriting, calls to the trust company from numbers tied to addresses I'd never lived at. "Your parents created a paper trail connecting every dot," Lucas said, printing more evidence. "Wire fraud, identity theft, bank fraud. A prosecutor won't need to work hard." My phone buzzed with another text from Sophie: "Can you call Mom? She says it's a misunderstanding." I screenshotted it, added it to our evidence folder. "One more thing," Lucas said, pulling up a spreadsheet. "Asset recovery projections." He'd calculated values for everything bought with stolen money: cars they couldn't sell without triggering the freeze, home improvements tied to the house's equity, luxury items depreciated the moment they left the store. "Recovery rate depends on how aggressive we get," he explained. "Civil restitution might get 60 to 70%. Criminal prosecution with asset forfeiture could hit 90%, but it means federal charges." The numbers stared back, $760,000 at stake, maybe $500,000 recoverable if we played it smart. Lucas zipped files onto a flash drive, digital exhibits, scanned documents, annotated timelines, organized like a federal case. James Harper likes thorough preparation, he said. He'll want every angle. I printed backup copies, bank statements, trust logs, receipts, a 3-inch stack. We worked until midnight, building a case that felt more like accounting than revenge. Numbers don't lie, and my parents left them everywhere. Lucas packed his briefcase. Meetings at 9 tomorrow, Harper's office downtown. After he left, I arranged the exhibits by the door, digital copies on the drive, physical backups in order. The apartment felt less like a crime scene, more like a command center. I powered down the laptop, turned off the lights. Tomorrow, we'd give Harper everything to decide whether my parents faced prosecution or civil destruction. Either way, the receipts were ready. James Harper's office spanned 2 floors of a 1980s building that hadn't aged well. He looked like a corporate attorney's stereotype, gray suit, steel-rimmed glasses, a handshake suggesting he'd closed deals worth more than most homes. Lucas spread our exhibits across the conference table, 3 years of evidence like a legal brief. Harper studied each document with a detail-obsessed eye. Wire fraud, identity theft, conversion of trust assets, he said, noting on a legal pad. Your parents weren't subtle. He outlined the strategy like he was ordering lunch. Temporary restraining order first, filed within the hour. Asset freeze on their bank accounts, investment portfolios, anything purchased with stolen funds. Prejudgment writ of attachment on specific accounts. He continued, we'll freeze their assets before they know we're coming. Once the TRO's granted, they can't sell, transfer, or hide anything significant. Discovery requests would follow, court-ordered financial audits, subpoenas for banking records, depositions under oath. Harper's firm had a forensic accounting team for exactly this. Criminal charges? Lucas asked. Possible, Harper said. State and federal prosecutors would have strong cases. But today's about stopping losses and securing what's left. Lucas prepped me for testimony, facts only, dates, amounts, transactions. Harper wanted me to sound like an accountant, not a victim. They'll ask about your relationship with your parents, Lucas said. Keep it simple. We're not close, I practiced. They'll ask if you knew about the trust. I found out 3 days ago. Did you authorize early distributions? No. I never spoke to the trust company. Harper nodded. While they finalized filings, I secured my accounts, changed passwords, enabled 2-factor authentication, redirected mail to Harborview, set up alerts, locked my SIM with a PIN. Grandfather arrived as Harper's paralegal filed emergency motions electronically. He reviewed the paperwork with the focus he'd given merger documents 40 years ago. We do this clean, he said, signing where indicated. No public drama, no media circus, just the law doing its job. The court clerk confirmed our hearing for the next afternoon, Judge Pamela, Commercial Division, Hennepin County District Court. Harper knew her reputation, thorough, no nonsense, skeptical of family disputes but fair with clear evidence. She'll want bank records, not sob stories, he warned. Your parents' lawyer will argue this is a family misunderstanding. Pamela won't buy it if we stick to numbers. Lucas packed his briefcase with satisfaction. My job was simple, show up, answer honestly, let the evidence speak. I stopped at a grocery store for chicken, rice, vegetables I could pronounce. My phone stayed quiet, no texts from Sophie, no unknown numbers. My parents were likely meeting their lawyer, scrambling to explain 3 years of theft to a judge. I ate dinner watching city lights through the windows. Tomorrow would bring a hearing, arguments, maybe a confrontation with people who used to be family. Tonight, it was just food that tasted right and a place that felt like home. I went to bed at 10:30, slept 8 hours straight, no dreams, no interruptions, just rest. The Hennepin County Courthouse smelled of floor wax and bureaucracy. Fluorescent lights buzzed, casting harsh brightness. My dress shoes clicked on scuffed marble floors that had seen decades of judgment. Harper carried our exhibits in a leather briefcase. Lucas walked with the calm of someone who'd testified in federal court before breakfast. My parents sat at the respondent's table with their attorney, a woman in her 50s who looked like she specialized in damage control. Dad stared at his hands. Mom glanced at the door, hoping for an escape. Sophie sat in the gallery, wearing the same look she had during high school math tests she hadn't studied for. Judge Pamela took the bench at 2 p.m. sharp. Younger than expected, early 40s, with a gaze that made lawyers rethink their strategies. Harper presented our case like reading earnings to shareholders. Exhibits A through are bank records, highlighted and tabbed, trust portal logs in chronological order. Each document told a piece, Together, they needed no interpretation. Trust distributions requested through forged correspondence, Harper explained, showing signature comparisons on a courtroom screen. 36 instances of identity theft over 3 years. Total fraudulent distributions, $640,000. The judge studied each exhibit, asking precise questions about banking protocols, verification failures, the trust's lack security. Harper called me to testify. The witness stand felt like a spotlight. I kept answers short, factual, as Lucas coached. Did you authorize any early distributions? No. Did you communicate with Northfield Corporate Trust before this week? No. Have you lived at the addresses used for callback verification? No. Did you know about these distributions before your birthday? No. My parents' attorney tried muddying the waters on cross-examination, asking about family relationships, past financial support, whether I'd ever hinted at wanting early access. Isn't it possible your parents believed they had permission? They forged my signature 36 times. But you never explicitly told them not to? I didn't know the trust existed. Harper's redirect was surgical: device fingerprints from Dad's phone, IP logs from their home network during lunch breaks, timestamps tying forged requests to luxury purchases. Their attorney had no answer for digital evidence linking every request to Dad's devices. Judge Pamela reviewed exhibits during a 15-minute recess. Her ruling was efficient, comprehensive. Temporary restraining order granted. My parents were barred from accessing, transferring, or disposing of assets bought with trust funds. Asset freeze on their bank accounts, portfolios, credit lines, anything tied to stolen money was locked pending judgment. Court-ordered financial audit by Harper's forensic team, full asset inventory, transaction analysis, recovery projections. My parents had 4 weeks to produce 3 years of financial records, statements, receipts. This court isn't interested in family drama, Pamela said, eyeing both teams. The evidence shows systematic identity theft and conversion of trust assets. Civil remedies will proceed based on financial facts, not emotional appeals. She set the next hearing for 6 weeks out and dismissed us. My parents' attorney huddled with them at the respondents' table. Dad looked like he was aging in real time. Mom dabbed her eyes with tissues that hid nothing. Sophie glanced at me as we filed out, her expression shifting from confusion to something like regret. She opened her mouth, then closed it and followed our parents. Harper shook hands with opposing counsel in the hallway, exchanging professional pleasantries like it was just business. Criminal charges? I asked. The evidence supports state and federal prosecution, Harper said. Wire fraud, identity theft, conversion. But that's a separate decision. Today was about preserving what's left. Lucas was already planning next steps, recovery projections, audit coordination. Your parents made this easy by keeping detailed spending records, he said. Most fraud cases take months to trace. They provided their own evidence. Outside the courthouse, I asked, what happens now? Lucas adjusted his tie. The court orders hit their accounts by end of day. The audit starts Monday. They have 4 weeks to produce records they probably wish they'd shredded. Harper checked his phone, likely for other clients' problems. Recovery timeline? I asked. 6 to 8 months for full restitution, Harper said. Less if they cooperate, more if they fight every subpoena. I looked at the courthouse steps. 6 months ago, I didn't know I had a trust fund. 6 months from now, I'd likely have most of it back. Now we wait, Lucas said. That sounded right. The asset freeze hit like a digital avalanche. Credit cards declined at gas stations. Bill payments paused mid-cycle. Login attempts flagged for the audit trail. Every financial move became evidence of theft they thought they'd hidden forever. 6 months later, the audit was complete. Lucas's forensic team traced every dollar with tax investigator precision. The 200-page report was financial archaeology, leaving no transaction unexplained. Our initial $640,000 estimate grew to $673,000 with hidden fees and vendor credits. Restitution was set at $673,000 plus interest and legal fees. My parents' house would be sold to cover part of the judgment. Their frozen retirement accounts would cover another chunk. Luxury items, furniture, hot tub, cars, would be liquidated through court-supervised sales. The process was slow: appraisals, approvals, schedules stretching weeks into months. Justice wasn't dramatic, it was administrative. Dad's electrical contractor dropped him from their vendor list. Mom's country club suggested she find another facility. Their neighbor, Mrs. Carver, stopped waving, turning away when they passed. I didn't revel in their exile, but I didn't pity them either. The unlocked project started small. Lucas mentioned it to a veteran whose GI Bill benefits were siphoned by relatives during deployment. Same pattern: identity theft, forged documents, family thinking they deserved money that wasn't theirs. I helped him navigate the VA, file forms, freeze accounts. We updated his direct deposit, enabled two-factor authentication, set up alerts. 6 weeks later, his benefits were restored, back payments issued, relatives facing federal charges. The work felt more meaningful than installing security cameras. My boundaries were clear: forgiveness didn't mean access. I could let go of anger without letting toxic people back in. Some relationships cost more than they returned. Work settled into a routine: contract IT projects by day, unlocked project cases at night, financial planning on weekends. I read banking regulations like others read sports scores. The Harborview apartment felt like home, not a crime scene. I replaced staged pantry items with food I cooked, added books to empty shelves, used the gym membership. My phone buzzed with occasional messages from unknown numbers: mom trying new approaches, dad sending lawyer-drafted apologies. I read them, didn't respond. Sophie's messages stopped after the hearing: 6 months of silence, progress compared to her early guilt trips. Then, last week, an envelope slid under my door: my original birth certificate, social security card, vaccination records, high school diploma, documents stored at my parents' house for years. No note, just the papers I needed to fully separate my life. Sophie must have taken them during a visit, probably while mom was crying and dad stared at financial wreckage. Her LinkedIn showed she'd moved to Portland, working as a marketing coordinator for a nonprofit helping homeless veterans, far enough to escape the family mess, meaningful enough to sleep better. I filed the documents in my desk next to insurance policies and investment statements, building a future from earned stability, not stolen money. Restitution payments would start next month: structured settlements, liquidation proceeds, garnished wages from dad's new job at half his old rate. The money would trickle back, not in dramatic lumps, but it would come, with interest. Lucas was right: my parents' sloppiness made the theft easy to prove and recovery straightforward. I kept the birth certificate on my desk a few days, wondering what Sophie's gesture meant: not reconciliation, maybe recognition that some bridges stay burned while others rebuild quietly from afar. She'd made the right choice. The documents were mine. Then the inevitable confrontation hit, and it was delicious. The lobby intercom buzzed Thursday evening while I reviewed unlocked project files. Building security, polite but firm, my parents were downstairs, asking to see me. I could have sent them away, pretended I wasn't home, let them stand in the marble lobby until they left. Instead, I took the elevator down. They looked smaller in Harborview's lobby than at the courthouse. Dad's work clothes were clean but worn, suggesting steady but lower-paying work. Mom had lost weight, her expensive highlights gone. Restitution payments had hit for 2 months: settlements, garnished wages, liquidated assets. The money was returning, as Lucas predicted. "Ethan," Mom started, then stopped, like she'd forgotten her script. "The payments are on schedule," I said. "If there's an issue, contact Harper's office." "We wanted to talk," Dad said, "about trying again as a family." I looked at them in the lobby of the building they'd unknowingly funded with stolen money. The irony felt fitting, not satisfying. "The restitution continues per the court schedule," I said. "That's the extent of our relationship." Mom's eyes reddened, but she didn't cry. "We made mistakes, but we're still your parents. You were my parents. Now you're people who owe me money." Lucas appeared near the entrance, likely for our evening meeting. He stayed by the windows, close enough to step in, far enough to avoid escalation. Grandfather materialized from the parking garage, moving with the quiet purpose that had unnerved business rivals for decades. He nodded to me, sat in a leather lobby chair within earshot, not engaging. "We can pay you back faster than the court ordered," Dad offered. "I'm working extra jobs, Mom's looking for." "You had 3 years to manage money responsibly," I cut in. "You chose to manage my future with stolen funds instead." The words were colder than intended, but accurate. Dad's shoulders sagged. Mom tried another angle. "Could we have coffee sometime? Just to talk." "No keys, no codes, no surprise visits," I said. "No calls, no dinners, no attempts to reconnect. The court schedule handles everything between us." "Ethan, please," Mom said. "This conversation is over." I pressed the elevator button. The lobby stayed quiet except for the hum of climate control and distant traffic. The elevator chimed. "The apartment's comfortable," Mom said as the doors started closing. "Isn't it?" The door sealed shut before I could answer. Lucas was waiting in the apartment with case files for a college student whose grandmother siphoned her scholarship funds. Grandfather arrived 10 minutes later with Vietnamese takeout. We ate in the dining room, reviewing the new case, 3 generations of men who knew some problems needed patience, others lawyers. After they left, I stood on the balcony, city lights flickering below. The apartment felt quiet, solid. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophie, saw them in the lobby on security feed. You okay? I typed back, fine. Thanks for the documents last month. Welcome. Take care. The balcony door closed behind me. Is the apartment comfortable? Now it is.